Motherhood Incorporated proudly presents Military Mom Talk Radio live on TogiNet.com. Co-hosted by Robin Boyd and Sandra Beck, the owner of Motherhood Incorporated. Military Mom Talk Radio is here with a powerful platform for women to discuss their ideas, issues, and concerns with respect to the military lifestyle. Military Mom Talk Radio encourages you to share your experiences of being a military wife and mother. This show is dedicated to educating your family about the many resources that are available in both the public and private sector. And we'll be sharing helpful information from women all over the world. We'll cover everything military, from helping a family member cope with post-traumatic stress disorder, to navigating government programs dealing with family issues, to the struggles of deployment, along with being a working mother both in and out of the home. This is Military Mom Talk Radio, and here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hey, military moms, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd, and we are, second week, third week into our furlough in the United States, and we're having some challenges with it. What do you say, Rob?
I think so. I think everybody is getting used to finding a more economical way of just doing anything. Our parents did it through the Depression, and we kind of went through another mini recession probably back in the 70s or so, and now we're facing it again. So I'm thinking that people are not succumbing; they're just standing up to it and saying, all right, okay, we don't like this. When everybody's got their own views, but as far as why and how it came to this point, but that's another discussion.
Well,
I think people are prepared.
I do too. I think people are rolling better this time around from what I can see with respect to my friends in the military families. And a big one is, you're right, it's the cutting back. And it's amazing. Like, we've cut back on soda. We've cut back on junk food. We've cut back on prepared foods. I'm back to, and it's healthier, so it's a good thing. But, I'm making baked potatoes. I'm making oatmeal, because they're inexpensive. And I, spend a little bit of money on meat, but we're eating smaller portions too. I mean, it's amazing when I look back to like 5 years ago, all the junk we bought. And I just went to the store and never even thought about what I was buying, just threw it in the cart and walked out.
Right. And I think there's other ways of being resourceful too. For example, you might not just go out and come back and then a half an hour later go back out again for another errand. You might loop your errands so that you're making one trip out and getting what you need. Or it might be swapping out daycare instead of paying for a babysitter, swapping out reciprocal favors for other people. Instead of hiring a babysitter, well, maybe do family nights, or maybe get together with another couple and who's got kids, and doing those kinds of things instead of the dinner out and the movies out. You get the Netflix and you have something at home instead. So I don't think that we have to totally sacrifice, but I think you just find other ways of finding good things to do.
Well, that's it, Rob. I see a lot in my neighborhood. The parents are carpooling a lot more, especially with sporting events. It used to be everybody drove their big, fat, gas-guzzling SUVs individually.
Yeah.
And now they're packed with kids. It's like a clown car coming out of my van. We'll have, 6 kids on any given trip. But it's great because it's also fostering a greater sense of community. We went for a hike this weekend with a couple of our deployment families that are back. And where we're all talking about, well, what should we do? And we kept throwing around the ideas, well, let's go to the movies. Well, the movies is like $50 if you're going to take 6 kids. And
that's right.
And then, boy, heaven forbid you should throw in 1 bucket of popcorn, much less 2, and some drinks. Forget it. So we went hiking. We packed some food and we went hiking, and it just was wonderful. I mean, it was something we wouldn't have necessarily done 2 years ago.
Right. Or, like you say, the movies being so expensive. Yeah, once in a blue moon, it really is kind of nice to be able to go to the theater. but you pay if you pay on demand or Netflix or whatever you've got in your neck of the woods, you pay the one fee, even if you've got to pay the $5.99, and then you pile everybody in the living room and have it
Absolutely.
all there. So that's there are certainly a lot of ways to sort of trim back and look at the wonderful opportunities and new experiences you have in the along the way, and that's pretty cool.
It is. And you know what I noticed too is it makes special special again. I think when we became very affluent as a society, I
Mhm.
know I did and my kids did, we took things like the movies for granted or ordering a
Sure.
pizza for granted. And
Hmm.
now it's actually special and fun. And we did another thing, Rob. I can't afford to have anybody come and help me clean my house. It's just not in the budget,
Right.
hasn't been for a long time. And
Hmm.
my sons had their little friends over, and by God, I had them running laundry upstairs, and one of
Yeah.
them swept the kitchen floor, and the other one, and I told him I would take them out for ice cream. To McDonald's has the 49-cent ice
Yep.
cream cone.
Right.
So I'm like, look, guys, we will go for ice cream, and we'll get an ice cream cone if you guys help me clean the house. And one little 8-year-old was vacuuming, and I didn't feel bad with my slave labor because they come to my house and trash it anyway. So what's it
Right.
to have them come and pick up? And you know what? We had a lot of fun. We put a lot of music on. My house got clean. I didn't have a stroke. The kids were happy, all for the price of $2.50.
And that just brings it all home again. And isn't that's really kind of nice. So I think in so many times people initially get a little stressed, and of course there again, we all have attitudes or opinions about things that are happening nationally, but that's not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on the beauty of what we can make out of it instead of the complaints. We're
That's
gonna
right.
make
Well,
it
and
work.
Dr. Jody Bremer taught this to us. Oh my gosh, Robin, it's got to be 4 years ago now.
I
And she
know.
came on and talked about the new normal. We were adjusting as a company, or I'm sorry, as a country, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and she was talking a lot about the new normal. And you know what? This is just an adjustment to the new normal.
Exactly, exactly. And there again, I think especially military families are so resilient. They really know how to take a situation and just turn it right around. If anybody's going to do it, it is going to be our military families.
Yay! Yay!
Yay!
I will tell you that I've watched some of my neighbors who are going through this furlough because we're
Mhm.
heavily, Edwards Air Force Base over here, and we've seen
Sure.
quite a few of our neighbors on furlough. And I will tell you, I see some of these families really making the best of it. It's a great time to get that honeydew list out.
Mm-hmm. Right, right.
And I mean, people are mending fences, they're up on the roof, they're washing windows, they're cutting out here. We have to do brush clearance this time of year because of fires. But,
Yeah.
it's a great time to make that list. And, we
Mm-hmm.
came up with some ideas too, Rob, about like Christmas is coming up. I know it's a couple months away, but if your partner is furloughed and they're home and they can watch the kids, get out there, do some of your, bargain shopping and get some of these things ahead. I know my one neighbor started making all her Christmas cookies, and she's like, "Yep, I'm just going to load up the freezer because my husband is home, and we
Sure.
have an extra pair of hands. So, by God, it could actually work for your benefit if you kind of play it properly in your household."
Well, this is it. And yes, of course, we're not going to deny that everybody's feeling it. If you're all of a sudden 2, 3, 4 weeks without a paycheck, it's going to be a strain. But that, like you say, that's not to say that you couldn't be doing up the cookies or doing up some of the little errands and whatnot that have to be done around the house. There's all those little chores that you say, oh, geez, maybe next weekend I'll get to it or whatever. And hopefully that's something that can be good. I read an interesting article from the Wall Street Journal, and they were also saying this is a good time to work on your brand. Career coaches suggest that you should use a furlough to build some of your personal brand, or at least some of your personal positioning, I guess you could say. You were hoping that things are going to come back, but it's not to say that you couldn't start checking in the LinkedIn profile and checking in your resume and stuff like that. Those are a really good time to pick up on those kinds of things, just so that you're ready.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the furloughs that we've had in the past, I know people were brought back and then, their pay was caught up and everything was
Mm-hmm.
fine. And I believe you have to pay back your unemployment for those who filed. You guys need to check with your human resource department to find out, what the
Mm-hmm.
specifics are. But there are ways to make this an opportunity for the betterment of your family. One of the families in town, which I totally dug this, they're both Air Force, they took their kids on a picnic. They took them out of school, for the afternoon. The
Mm-hmm.
mom made a picnic. They went out there because I ran into them when I was doing my walk, and I'm like, "Hey, what are you guys doing there?" And they
That's
said,
perfect.
they chose that because daddy's home and they could do this, that they were going to have what they called the family furlough, and they were going to
Yeah.
go out and make the best of it. And they were playing together as a family, and I thought, what a great way. Not that we want to do this all the time because kids have to go to school and we know everybody
Oh,
has
sure.
to work, but what a great way to take this, at least a little bit of the stress out of it, by coming together as a family.
And that's a wonderful thing. I mean, even my day, my mom would keep me out of school every so often just to go and do something that was an enrichment, whether it be a museum or go to the university and do a course that she was taking. She'd bring me along, and every so often, as long as you know that your children are up to date with all of their assignments and whatnot. I also read an interesting article, and we've got a break coming up here shortly, San, on Kiplinger's website, talking just about the unemployment, and to make sure that you do check with your human resources, and because you can claim, it looks like you can, but you might get reimbursed for that pay once you're back, and so then you'd have to return what was given to you in unemployment. So there's a lot to be careful of, and that's where you really do need to be careful and check with your human resources. So, but we want to make sure that we get Jody in on this conversation. Jody Bremer is joining us in just a few minutes, and I am sure all of you are familiar with Jody. She is a family and marriage therapist. We are always so pleased to have her with us, and she's going to be joining us in just a moment. You can find out more about Jody at jodybremer.com. It's JODYBREMER, and she will be with us momentarily. We are so glad to have her. She loves talking to us about all of the things that the veterans and military families are experiencing. So stay tuned. We're going to be here with Dr. Jody Bremer right after the break.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd, and we'll be right back after these.
Mobile is the future, and the future is now. Listen in each week, Tuesdays 4 to 5 Central, to Brilliant Mobile Marketing with your host, Mobile Mary, as we simplify the hottest marketing channel, mobile marketing, and share secrets on how you can use mobile to be more brilliant, be more profitable, and have more fun in your industry. Join us each week to learn from brilliant business leaders on how to simply and easily capture a list of raving fans and turn them into loyal customers. This show will help business owners, authors, and speakers realize their own brilliance by tapping into the insights of fellow brilliant business leaders. We will also showcase brilliant tools, traditional and digital, that will make you more brilliant in everything you do. Don't miss your date with Brilliant Mobile Marketing and your host, Mobile Mary, America's mobile marketing expert, as she shares her success strategies every Tuesday from 4 to 5 Central on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Are you the kind of parent who just wants their kids to live the life of their dreams? Well, grab your kids and join How to Raise a Millionaire Radio with Ann Morgan James and Jack James. It's a lively interview and call-in show, Thursdays, 6 p.m. Central on the Rockstar Radio Network. This dynamic mother and son team are on a mission. They want to empower kids to dream big and go after those dreams with gusto. They want to fill the world with kid entrepreneurs. Are your kids ready for success? Don't miss their fun antics, lively guests, and discussions. For more on Ann and Jack and their show, check out their website, howtoraiseamillionaire.com. Then join the conversation of lively interviews and call-ins. And let's give our kids the tools and encouragements they need to build a future they can bank on, no matter what the economy throws their way. It's How to Raise a Millionaire Radio with Ann Morgan James and Jack James. Thursdays, 6 p.m. Central on the Rockstar Radio Network.
We'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list, and a statue of liberty started shaking.
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. Covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Red, white, and blue.
Hey, military moms, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd, and our guest today is Dr. Jody Bremer. She's been a repeat guest of ours because she is so fantastic. She knows so much about the military family, and she has answers for everything, and we're going to throw a ton at her today, Rob. We've got Facebook stuff coming in. We got Twitter things. I've got direct email. Everybody's got a question for Dr. Jody Bremer.
That's great. Let's bring her right on. Hi, Jody.
Oh, Jody, you ready for the hot seat?
I bring it on. Bring it on. I was listening to everything you were...
So the first question we're going to open with is one that just came in through Facebook. And one of our listeners asked, when you have a family member that's on furlough, what can you expect? What are some things that happen, when there's a big, in this case, an economic change within the family dynamic?
The military families are one of the most adaptable, strongest units I've ever seen. They encounter so many more things than perhaps the typical, stereotypical family does. And it always amazes me the ability that they have, that people in general, and military families in particular, have to adapt. Of course, the first thing is to cut back where you don't need to be spending. For instance, a lot of people start limiting when they go through drive-thrus and buying their beverages. That's $2.50, $3 out of pocket each time, or even cutting back the number of energy drinks that are so popular. It adds up. Starbucks, it adds up. When people go on furlough, they have to realize that even though it's temporary, and it is going to change, and there is going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, that just like you said, start serving oatmeal. In my case, we did a lot of mac and cheese. Whatever you need to do for the moment to kind of preserve some of that change in your wallet is very important, as well as for the long term. I mean, here we are going on 14 days with the government shutdown. What can you do to eliminate some of the unnecessary things? Do you need all of the stations on cable? Can you cut back on some of the services that you're receiving? Do you have to drop your child at child care? Of course, that might be yes, in order to preserve your sanity, but, we do what we have to, and we have to. If you have to let that manicure go another week, you let it go another week, or you start having parties where people get together and do things for each other. It's like that painting party or a chore party. People can come together in miraculous, wonderful ways, and even on very small levels. Haven't you found that to be true?
Oh, I'm just jonesing for the chore party. I was like, wow, I could make a huge list, have a party, and bring everybody over here. I mean, you're right, Jody. I mean, the chore party to me is just a great idea. I mean, I've seen that happen when, people have a new baby or there's a passing, of a loved one. But I never thought about like getting my group of friends together and saying, look, we've got, 8 couples, 4 weekends. Let's do a chore party, one at each house, and help each other out.
I have been seeing this more and more, even on websites that are dedicated to individual units. For instance, in Camp Pendleton, where I'm close to, they have different housing developments, and I'll see a notification on one of the websites that says, we need to move, can we have some help, or we're going to be painting our house, anybody want to come and we'll buy pizza and beer if everybody comes over. And the camaraderie and the ability to call on your neighbors, which, by the way, is one of the greatest things about living on base, is really something very special to villages, to communities, to chore parties, to painting parties, and to have it be something that ends in something pleasurable. Say everyone does something. You took your kids for ice cream. What if everyone played Pictionary at the end of the night? Or what if everyone brought their kids together for a joint babysitting night, and the adults were in one room and the kids were in another, and all you did is watch Netflix or rent something from Redbox? There's a lot of alternatives out there to spending a lot of money. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm making my list for the chore party. I was like, okay, who can I invite? I got so much to get done. But you're right, Jody. I mean, how do you handle, like, I know, whenever money's not coming in for me, I go through my whole thing. I have a dream where my teeth are falling out. I wake up in the middle of the night, like I can't breathe, I can't sleep, I have insomnia. What do we do as a family? Because I have little kids and I can't whip them out of control because I'm freaking out. What are some things? Should we talk to our kids about this?
It depends on the age of the child. We don't want to burden our child. They still deserve a childhood. And sometimes those lines can blur, because oftentimes, especially in single-parent households, our children become an extension of us and become our friends. And we have to be careful of that. Children still need a childhood. So dependent on the age of the child, you want to be very careful not to overdo. Young children don't have a sense of future. They don't have an idea of what the difference is between this is going to be over next week, or this is going to be over tomorrow, or this is going to be over next month. For all they know, that could be never, or that could be any time frame. If you talk to a teenager, they would have a much stronger sense of, okay, we need to buckle down now because this is what's happening right now. But for younger kids, it's more a sense of, okay, let's watch our pennies. We want to put money away and save money for a rainy day, or mommy's really stressed right now, so I want you to go in your room and play, or keep that.
Oh, did we lose Jody for a sec? I think we might have.
We did.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to continue what she was saying, I think it is so important to have children understand of their own finances. If you give them an allowance, or if you say, well, we have X amount of money, we can do this or that, and sort of not give them everything right from the get-go, to be able to let them realize that, yes, we do have to set a limit. We do this even in Girl Scout troops. We'll say, okay, if we want to get to this goal, what are we going to have to do to get to that goal? And if we have so much money, are we going to be able to do this? Or are we going to be able to do that? And I think financial planning is something that you start right away when kids are very little. You don't have to wait until all of a sudden you're going to college and saying, okay, well, here you go. You have to learn to manage your own money now.
Well, it's true. I mean, I like to take my kids, we don't do allowances in my house because I can't be obligated to a monthly outflow or a weekly outflow. But what I do is I allow my kids to earn things in the bank, and they can earn things by, doing the dishes, putting their laundry away. I mean, there's a lot of things they just have to do anyway, but if they go above and beyond, they can earn $1, and we just keep track of it on the wall. And then when we go to Walmart, they can spend it. And it's very interesting to see, like, how they negotiate, because they know not to ask me for any money. That's just not happen. But what I found is my dollar that I give them is worth like 10% of what the dollar is that they earned. They get so miserly. They're like, I've got $25. I'm not going to waste it on this video game, but boy, I could waste my money on that video game.
Oh, that was Emily all through and through. If it was my money, oh yes, we need that $100 coat. And if it's her money, oh, we're going to go to Goodwill and get it for $10.95.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's so funny what money is worth. But then I will tell you, when I get Christmas money, I splurge on something that I'll really enjoy. I don't count the pennies as much as I would if I was, like putting it on my credit card or taking it out of my disposable income.
Yeah, And I think there again, even younger ones can be learning that kind of skill, because who doesn't need that skill all throughout our lives? So I think it's so important, and kids can handle it. It's just putting it into their terms, and I think that's part of it, being able to have them understand the whole budgeting, even if it's only with pennies or a buck. So it's...
Well, I think we have Dr. Jody back. Dr. Jody, are you with us?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Oh, now we can hear you.
So what advice do you have for our families? We're talking about, teaching our children the value of money. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I missed what you said before. The value of money, there's a lot of different professional opinions on that now. I grew up with an allowance. I know that there's a lot of different agreements out there as far as whether an allowance is a good thing or a bad thing. I think children today need to know, as you said, the value of what money represents. Things can't be handed to them. If they're handed to them, then they're going to grow up with unreal expectations. When the time comes for them to step out in the real world and away from mommy and daddy who are providing for them, the real world isn't going to be as generous. I think understanding the concept of a dollar, learning to save some, spend some, maybe even invest, depending on the child's age.
I think that's so smart. Yep, that is. And we definitely agree with you. Jody, we're going to head out to a break. On the other side of the break, maybe we can talk a little bit about the stresses that sometimes families incur when they're under a financial burden on top of other stresses. I mean, the military families have deployments and they have separations that are hard enough. But then if things like this furlough are compounding the stress, maybe there's some family situations that are going to be a little bit difficult to get through. So maybe we could talk a little about that on the other side of the break.
That would be great.
That sounds good. We're with Dr. Jody Bremer today, family therapist, and she visits us so often with such great, reassuring confidence that gets us through whatever challenges we have facing us. The benefits of visiting a therapist is very important, and we're so glad that we have you with us today, Jody. We're going to have her back after the break here on Military Mom Talk Radio.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And we'll be right back after these.
Get ready for Smart Health with your host, Dr. Glenn Mia. Friday afternoons at 2 p.m. Central on the Rockstar Radio Network. Smart Health is a 1-hour program dedicated to discussions, interviews, and news in the ever-changing world of medicine. Information leads to smart choices, and smart choices lead to a healthier lifestyle. That's the quote of host and broadcast journalist Dr. Glenn Mia, M.D. This magazine-style radio show is a fast-paced program bringing together medical experts, authors, and patients to examine what works and what doesn't in staying healthy. Dr. Glenn Mia is a board-certified physician in pediatrics and internal medicine. His philosophy to wellness starts with an investment. He says proper nutrition, rest, and exercise are the best personal investments to maintaining good health. So join us for Smart Health with Dr. Glenn Mia. Fridays at 2 p.m. Central on the Rockstar Radio Network. In the annals of recorded history, there has never been anything that can compare to home movies. But now, in this modern era, where do you turn for the best information? Right here. It's the Home Movie Legacy Project, hosted by Rhonda Vigent. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central here on the Rockstar Radio Network. Learn how to organize, digitize, share on social media, use as genealogy research, repurpose, or even monetize found footage. Discover ways to find films about your own family that you didn't even know existed. Or create a documentary that can use the power of home movies to deliver a message that can impact the lives of many. For more on Rhonda and the show, go to our website, homemovielegacy.com. Then be here as the journey continues with the Home Movie Legacy Project with Rhonda Vigent. Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Central, here on the Rockstar Radio Network.
'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. Covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Hey, military moms, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Robin Boyd, and we're about halfway through the show, Rob. So our listeners, if you missed the first half of the show, you can pick us up on iTunes under Military Mom Talk Radio. You can pick us up on the .com, militarymomtalkradio.com by the same name, or you can go to our host station in Texas, TogiNet, TogiNet.com, to listen to this and over 175 hours of wonderful, informative, interesting, delightful radio broadcast brought to you by Military Mom Talk Radio. Wasn't that good?
It was wonderful. You always do that station break so well.
Oh, they should just record me and I could just push an own button, and then I get so tired of hearing myself talk.
Well, just before we went to break, Sandra, what we were talking about with Jody was the difficulties of sort of balancing the budget, but also the stresses that it can bring to a family. So I thought after we got back from the break, we would talk a little bit about how do you work out some of the strain, because every family has arguments, or every family has difficulties when money might get a little bit tight, but compounded by the stress of deployments and so forth, that just makes it all the harder for a military family. Jody, what do you say to certain couples who might be undergoing a little bit of stress when things do get tight on top of all the other pressures they're facing?
That's such an excellent question, because as all of us know, money is like the number one issue that couples argue about. So this is timely, whether there's a furlough, whether there's a layoff, at any time in our lives. The money conversation, first of all, does need to be discussed, and it needs to be discussed early in a relationship. People might have different ways of approaching it, and this can cause stress later on when one person might be a spender, one person might be a saver. But regardless, when there's tough times, the most important thing to do is to talk about it, to let each other know that you're still part of the team, that it isn't me against you, or that you are doing this, or you're the cause of this, or it's your fault. It's got to be a sense that we're in this together. We are in this together, so what do we need to do to get through this? Because at some point, we hope things are going to change, because the only constant is change. So what do we need to do as a team, as a couple, as a family to get through this? Not point fingers, not argue, not yell, not make any rash statements, but, okay, guys, let's be in this together. So what can you do? What has your all's experience been when you've needed to pull things together financially and the emotional strain has taken its toll? Any thoughts?
I cry. I really do. I'll be honest with you. It's like I was crying when we left Walmart yesterday, because my little son wanted this and my older son wanted this for Halloween, and the stuff was just so expensive. You guys, it's like the shield alone for Captain America was $25. That was my budget. $20 was my budget for their whole costume. And, it's just not always you just can't always cut everything. And so I made the decision of what I would cut out, and I was really stressed trying to figure out how do I juggle this. And I'm like, okay, if we cook this stuff and we don't have any school lunches for the next 2 weeks, we can swing it. And I was driving home, and thank God the kids are too busy looking out the window and doing their things, but I was crying. And I will tell you, I felt much better after I had my little cry. It's just what I needed to do.
It's great stress relief. The truth is that we won't be able to give our children absolutely everything we would like to give them. And we do need to acknowledge that that crying, which is a stage of grief, we need to be able to feel our feelings. They're feelings. They're honest. They're sincere. They're real. If we want to do something and we can't do something, whether it's buy our children something, get ourselves something, splurge, live the high life, retire early, whatever it is that we want to do, if that's not a reality, then we need to come to grips with it. And coming to grips with it means feeling the stages of grief, going through that denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. All of this is true on a basis of, it doesn't have to be a death. It doesn't have to be a divorce. It can be a loss of a good job. It can be the idea that we're not able to do everything we want to do for our loved ones. That can create a sense of, oh, damn. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah, you can. I do.
Okay. And crying represents a feeling, an emotion. And it's not unrealistic to have a limit of $20 or 20 cents or $2,000. If we have a limit, we have to stick to it. And by letting our children know going in, we can only do this, then it allows us to be a little more creative. Instead of the child saying, well, I want that $25 item, and you can say, that's not in our budget, let's figure something else out. And again, that teamwork, whether it's with your partner or whether it's with your child, well, let's figure something else out. Can we make that shield out of cardboard and aluminum foil? Can we figure out something else to do? Can we draw a picture on our face instead of buy that mask that costs $50 made out of realistic flesh-feeling stuff?
That rubber that stinks and smells so bad.
By the end of the night, it's disgusting, isn't it? Oh, God.
Oh, but you're right, Jody. It's like we got to do that. And Robin and Jody, when you were growing up, I know for me, like we were Christmas presents one year. My mom put a bow on our heads and, big red cheeks on me and my sister and, had a box and she wrapped it in Christmas paper. And, we wore our belly tights underneath it. Froze to death in Buffalo, I got to tell you. It almost blew away. But, I don't remember ever having costumes that we didn't make ourselves, but the generation now, everything is so realistic with the puffed up everything, but you're right, it's like it was okay for me to be sad. I wasn't being a big baby, so thank you for that, my online therapy. But I think every mom has been there.
We all do. There's sometimes that we reach a limit and we don't, whatever that limit is. And nobody likes limits. We want more. That's who we are. That's how we are. Our kids are that way. Our kids are that way personified. And we all have to have limits. And it makes us sad. Okay, so we can't go to Caribbean Island. Instead, we have to go to the mountains. Okay, that's fine. We do what we can under the circumstances. We realize whatever situation we're in right now, it's going to change. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be the same. It could be worse. It could be better, but it's not going to stay the same. And if we're happy in the moment and accept what we have and think of the things that we do have, I know this sounds cheesy, but truly, you walked out of that store in tears because you couldn't buy your children costumes. But the reality is that you have your beautiful children, and they're there, and they're with you, and there's something you can hold on to and kiss and hug and oh my gosh, I'm starting to cry myself.
Yeah. But also too, Jody, doesn't it bring in an element of vulnerability? Because when all of a sudden your income changes or all of a sudden your deployment and your family status changes, that's beyond your control. And this is something that you had no ability to to have a handle on, and being able to either cry it out or journal it. We had a wonderful guest on last week, Jody Bremer, who has a wonderful book called Stunned by Grief, and then a journal that accompanies it. Those are the things that you can control, in that you can write down the issue, you can write down the problem, you can discuss the problem, you can cry about the problem, and then be able to sit back and say, okay, what can I take back control of? I now have all of these things that I've listed, or all of these things that I've purged emotionally, and now what of those things can I take control of? And once you feel a little more empowered, don't you feel that we're then able to face whatever else the world's going to throw at us?
Absolutely. And you hit it on the head. We can't control externals. We can't control what happens to us, but we can control how it affects us. We get lobbed, we get hit on the head, we fall on our faces. Things happen to us that we have no control over. But what we can do is manage how we do control it. We might have something that makes us angry, but it's up to us whether or not we punch a wall. It's up to us whether or not we kick a rock and break our toe. The reaction is up to us. And how we handle crises tells us more about our character than anything else.
Well, and I think it's important to show some emotion, too. I know, I grew up in that stiff upper lip German military household, you don't cry, you don't whine, you don't this, you don't that, and I think there's got to be kind of a happy medium. We were talking in the chat about, I don't want to underestimate the value of a good cry, because that, for me and for many women, and you don't have to go blubbering all over town. I mean, you can go in the bathroom, you can quietly just release that emotion. But I also think that we got to teach our kids how to handle things, our attitude is everything. I was sad, and I think, my kids looked and they're like, that's okay, Mom, we'll get stuff next year or whatever they did, and they picked out stuff that was appropriate, and we dealt with it as a family. And I think it's okay for us to share those emotions. Jody, can you comment on that? We've got about 2 minutes to break. Less than that.
I can't agree with you more. The emotions are what make us human. In fact, there's a study done that says that tears that we cry from sadness are made up chemically of something different that we cry when we're cutting an onion. And when we release those chemicals that are inside of our body, those negative chemicals, the reason that we breathe heavy sigh and say, oh, I feel better now, is because we've gotten the sadness out, and we can contain ourselves and move on from there. It's like an immediate antidepressant is to cry.
It's so true, Jody. We're with Dr. Jody Bremer today. Her website, again, is jodybremer.com. We're so glad that she's here with us. She is here always to help us be happier, more secure, more confident, and more capable in every aspect of our lives. And we're so glad that she takes the time out to be a part of our lives every so often. And we're glad that you're here, Jody. After the break, let's take this a little bit further. We're talking about dealing with kids and our stresses, and let's see if we can talk a little bit more about that. And when we do have those emotional outbreaks, how can we work it through with our kids? Back in a moment.
Are you a military mom looking for help in dealing with the system? Keeping the home fires burning? Well, that's what we're here for. It's Military Mom Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd. And we'll be right back after these.
Get ready for Smart Health with your host, Dr. Glenn Mia. Friday afternoons at 2 p.m. Central on the Rockstar Radio Network. Smart Health is a 1-hour program dedicated to discussions, interviews, and news of the ever-changing world of medicine. Information leads to smart choices, and smart choices lead to a healthier lifestyle. That's the quote of host and broadcast journalist Dr. Glenn Mia, MD. This magazine-style radio show is a fast-paced program bringing together medical experts, authors, and patients to examine what works and what doesn't in staying healthy. Dr. Glenn Mia is a board-certified physician in pediatrics and internal medicine. His philosophy to wellness starts with an investment. He says proper nutrition, rest, and exercise are the best personal investments to maintaining good health. So join us for Smart Health with Dr. Glenn Mia. Fridays at 2 p.m. Central on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Why is religion such a thorny issue in our society and the world? And why has religion often become a source to divide people rather than unite? Frank Talk with Dr. Ejaz is a forum for civil dialogue on religion and wellness on TogiNet Radio. Dr. Ejaz Naqvi invites leaders and activists from all walks of life and faith to engage in a civil discussion on religion and current events. Join us for Frank Talk with Dr. Ejaz every Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on the TogiNet Radio Network.
We'll put a boot in your ass, it's the American way. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list, and a statue of liberty started shaking.
Welcome back to Military Mom Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. Covering topics to help on the home front with help from those who know how the system works and how to work the system. It's more fun than a sale at the BX. Now let's get back to it. It's Military Mom Talk Radio. Here again are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Robin Boyd.
Red, white, and blue.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Robin Boyd with Sandra Beck, and today we have Dr. Jody Bremer with us, licensed marriage and family therapist, and she always has some wonderful ideas and thoughts for us to take with us. Dr. Jody, on the other side of the break, we said we were going to talk a little bit more about families and possibly the stress that children might feel when a family is experiencing either financial issues or separation issues. You got a deployment coming up, that anxiety that kids are starting to experience. Kids don't always know how to talk it through. And of course, we're talking a big gambit of age ranges and how kids can or cannot deal with things. But I think every mom is going to know, okay, something's going on. My child is not acting the same. My child is exhibiting some odd behavior, either lashing out or just not being friendly with some of the kids that they normally are friendly with. When you start to see these little telltale signs, Jody, what should parents start to think about doing?
Well, kids react to stress in a different way than adults do, and again, very age-dependent. Children might show stress in the same way that they would show depression, which again shows differently in children than it does adults. Children can get hostile, they can get aggressive, or they can withdraw. They can doing the things that they normally do, or they start hanging out in their rooms, or they just don't seem to be as interested in playing with their friends as they used to. They might start kicking things or not paying attention in school, or starting to get in trouble in school, where a teacher hadn't had a problem with a child that they've always been so good before, but they're noticing that little Joey isn't paying attention or isn't turning in their homework, or things that could be a very small sign that a parent would say, hey, this is different than normal. Again, the best thing to do is to start a dialogue with your child. They may not be able to put into words or to express their feelings or emotions the way that an adult can. So again, age dependent, you may want to provide them with some words and say things like, do you feel frustrated, or are you sad? Or does it seem that this is unfair? Or I know you wanted that, staying with the Halloween theme, I know you wanted that costume. Does it make you angry that we can't get it? And start those conversations. Remember, feelings are feelings, and feelings are okay. It's how we deal with our feelings that is not. It's okay for a child to be sad or angry or any other feeling that they're feeling. The thing is that they can't be allowed to have that consume what is, let's say, required of them. They have to go to school. They can't say that they have it every day of the week in order to stay home. But they might be worried. They might be worried about the parent. They might be worried that the daddy is not going to work, or mommy is not going to work, or that mommy and daddy seem to be fighting more than usual and they don't understand it. So it's important to step outside of ourselves, because as parents, we know that it can't always be about us, and we have to realize what we're doing on our kids and how our kids might be perceiving it. Again, the best way to know is to be aware of what your child normally does and if anything is different, and also to keep a communication going with the school's teacher.
So important. I know many a time I used to sub in our local schools, and it would be interesting. You would let the kids do some play acting. They would be, whether it be with clay or whether it be with little Lego pieces or other little dolls, and let them express what they wanted to with their play routine, and then to be able to say, how did this character feel, or whatever the little name that they give them, or how did the little blue guy feel when the red guy knocked over his blocks. Or there were so many things that would be evident that things were happening, and it would be a great insight for us to know, okay, there was just a loss in this family, so therefore we understand at the school what's going on. And I think it makes it so much easier when the whole team that is involved with the child is on board with whatever the family's experiencing, without, of course, you don't have to tell them every little last detail, but yeah, when there's some problems, you do need to let the teachers know.
Absolutely. And again, just like you said, to use objects or items. In my practice, we have dolls, we have stuffed animals, we have puppets. A very good way to start a dialogue or to know what your child is going through is to give them a stuffed animal or a puppet or a doll and have them be you. Say, okay, you be the mommy and I'll be you.
Mm-hmm.
And saying something. And it's sometimes pretty shocking to hear what they say. Oh, Mom, I'm yelling at you today, or go to your room. It's like, is that me? And it represents a mirror that the child holds up to you, so you can see how you're coming across to them in a way that they might not be able to verbalize. It gives them a safety, because that extension animal or that extension puppet or that extension doll becomes their sounding board in a way that they wouldn't be able to do otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, too, parents are too quick to say, well, that's not right, or that's not what I'm supposed to. I think we have to just allow the child to say what they've got to say, or express, or draw. How many times have we gotten a picture and there was black scribbled all across something because they were so angry, and needing to let that be an okay picture, and to be able to talk about why it's black today, and do you think it should be black every day, or maybe tomorrow is going to be a different color. Or I guess I would always try very hard to make sure children understood that however they expressed what they were feeling, it was going to be heard with an open ear, not reprimanded in any way. So that's kind of important.
It is important, and Robin, unfortunately, a lot of times as adults, we're going through something ourselves, and we don't always have the capacity to be 100% a great mom or a great parent. Sometimes we are kind of in our own shell or in our own circle, and it will, by virtue of reality and humanity, sometimes not be the perfect situation. The kids have to know that too, and as much as a lot of parents may not want to say it, it's okay to say, hey, Mommy doesn't feel really happy today, Mommy is in herself, or I'm not feeling like doing X, Y, or Z today. It's okay, honey, it's okay, honey, it was not about me, it's about me. Tell them, and let them learn, let them be that way, to learn that it's not all around them either, about them either. Mommy has a bad day, and we can't be perfect, we can't be great parents, we can't be parents of the time.
And that's letting them know this is part of humanity. I mean, all of us are going to be having to face difficulty, so they're going to as well. And I think it's really important. Jody, one last, we're getting so close to the end of the show. One last bit of encouragement for families who might be experiencing something under stress. You were saying communication is probably the best thing, and to keep those lines open.
Keep the find something, remember you're in it together. Remember that things are going to change, that it won't always be this way. The only change is change. Always get worse, always get better, won't always be this way. And just remember, your teammate is on your side, your partner, your social, you love them, you love them. At the end of the day, that's what matters.
That's very true. What comes to the point where maybe someone does need to come to someone like you? When do we need Jody in person?
Whenever you feel that you're not getting what you need at home, you just feel a little bit of extra strength, perhaps it's something you can share with your child, there isn't something you can share with your partner or your friend or your husband. You just want somebody either maybe bounce other ideas off your back, or maybe get back hoping for handling things, or feeling like they're outside of your capacity. We all reach our capacity. We all get to a break point. And I don't want people to come to me when they're passionate. I want them to come to me before you're there. Be able to have some resource, some support. In addition, things are everything around you. Sometimes we feel like we lack support, especially if our partner or our children aren't actually present or even emotionally present. That's what a good therapist can help you understand what's going on with you and provide the support that you need.
Is so important, because I think sometimes realizing that maybe that's the next step, and people denying, I'm going to work it out. There is a very valuable element to being able to visit you or anyone that's going to give that objective view, that a professional that's going to give that objective view. Jody, it's always such a pleasure. We are so grateful for your time and all of your compassionate expertise that you give us all the time. We hope people will visit you at jodybremer.com, JODYBREMER, a wonderful website, lots of information, and I hope people look you up, because a visit with you is just wonderful. Thank you so much, Jody.
Thank you.
Next week, you want to tune in. We have Dr. Suzanne Phillips. She's talked to us a lot about PTSD and some issues and some reintegration things that we would want to chat with her about. So do join us next week. We're going to have her with us for the show. If you have some questions, you're welcome to reach us at Military Mom Talk Radio. You're welcome to join us in our chat area. If you go to toginet.com and you click on live chat, you can always be a part of the conversation. We do have a lot going on in the chat room usually, and it's always a wonderful way for you to get the questions to us. If anyone ever is so inclined, we do have a call line. You're welcome to call us as well. So by all means, join us next week as we welcome Dr. Suzanne Phillips. And if you missed any of our shows, find us at military-mom-talk-radio.com and here on the TogiNet station. Thanks for being with us. Join us again next week at Military Mom Talk Radio. Take care, everyone.